Check, check, check. All right. Good to go. Life of the Germ. Welcome back. Long time no see. Squeaky chair. Probably the most important part. The chop, bro. We got it. We got it trimmed up. It was long overdue. Sides were getting shaggy. It's just like, gotta update the flow, you know. Yeah, classic Tuesday night. Just came back from volleyball. Probably not frozen pizza tonight, just cause made some trout last night. Actually, pretty fire. Probably gonna run that back. I only had half of it last night, so yeah, I've been like running quite a bit for this big marathon that I told you I was running in November, and um, dude, like I've just been really not feeling cooking much, and because of that, I went into huge deficits because I like was running a ton of miles and then like would come home and have like literally nothing, and then I'd be like go to work the next day and I'm like, why do I feel so tired? And it's just crazy. Like when you're underfueled, it's just like, oh, like I thought it was from the running, but now like Sunday I finally found some time to just like, I didn't enjoy it, but I just like meal prepped, and um I actually find that I have energy now, which is really, always a good bonus. But yeah, I feel like I'm doing good now. I've been pretty consistently hitting like 45-mile weeks now, which is kind of crazy. Like I don't think I've hit this high of mileage since probably, I think I had 1 week in college where I hit something crazy like this, but probably not since high school. Like it's been a long time. So it feels good to be like cardiovascularly like super in shape, because I think I was kind of like swapping that more so with like um I think like getting big in the gym. And I think what I'm coming to realize is like after I'm done with all this, I haven't been to the gym in like a month. So my upper body is just like pretty much gone. But I think the truth really lies in the middle somewhere. Like probably like lifting 3 days a week, running 2 days a week. I think that's like the sweet spot. Because then you can kind of maintain both. But normally I run really early with my friend on Wednesday mornings. And she has her like a really big exam tomorrow, and she said she didn't want to. So I'm gonna probably just. I was like, do I work out? I haven't worked out in like a month, and I'm like, I think I'm just gonna sleep in. I haven't slept in so long. So, and then I'm running. I'm gonna run tonight, like tomorrow night. But yeah, things are all good at that. I think probably gonna do another 14er this weekend, which I'm really pumped for. This past weekend, like I feel like I just kind of chilled for the most part. I didn't do too much, which is pretty nice to be honest. Like checking out the city in the summer is always fun, just to unlock new secrets, like Chamber of Secrets, Harry Potter, type beat. But yeah, again, not really a lot of updates. I think slowly these are transitioning more and more into just the straight like wisdom of the week, which I think is sweet. I think eventually like maybe I'd like to get to that point, but I think this beginning part like helps me sort of warm up before I like spit some bars to you guys. So appreciate you guys for sticking with, and I think for the homies too, it's good to like if we don't get around to calling, they can always like tune in and like kind of hear what I'm up to as well. So um, yeah. And honestly for myself too, like it's fun to go back and like rewatch old videos and then be like, oh dude, like I remember that week sucked because like XYZ. And I was going through it because of that. Um but yeah, I think we just get straight to the point here. I had this really cool connection that I just decided to go with, and um I feel like one of my more creative episodes in a while, like, and I'm like super excited to share. Dude, recently, like, I've been like, been able to get some more time for myself, and that's usually always when like I come up with a lot of these like cool ideas for the episodes. And dude, like, I think last Friday, bro, I like had a great conversation with a friend and then like went home and just relaxed for a few hours. And I think I had like three ideas that were just all like equally just insane. So, really excited to share these with you guys. First of, they're not like a series, but like the first one of the ones I came up with this past weekend was what the title is that you're seeing now, which is Darko and Durban, which um, I feel like is kind of a sick name. I'm not gonna lie. So it's based on a couple movies that I was recommended by my barber actually, and pretty basic movies. Donnie Darko, which but both like kind of late '90s movies, I think. Donnie Darko, and then the other one is Tyler Durden from Fight Club, which both I don't know how I haven't seen either one of those. Like more so Fight Club. I mean, everyone's seen Fight Club, so like both like really good movies, kind of similar vibes. I feel like '90s was kind of I used to take a huge dump on like the '90s. Just '90s like music especially I never really vibed with, but I'm slowly starting to like break into '90s and appreciate that genre more. It's just so different than like I don't know, '70s and '80s sound pretty similar, I feel like, and then '90s hits and you're like, what happened? Like it just like totally changed. But I am slowly starting to appreciate '90s culture a little more. The movies, man, I'm very impressed. Like, um, I feel like Fight Club is pretty like critically acclaimed. Like everyone, is that how you say it? I think, yeah. Like everyone kind of knows that Fight Club's pretty awesome. And Donnie Darko, like I feel like maybe gets overlooked a little bit because I don't think I've really heard of that movie, but dude, so many actors that are like really famous now was Donnie Darko was like one of their first movies. One of my favorites was Seth Rogen. I just like he had like the smallest part in Donnie Darko, and I was like, that's Seth Rogen. Like, and he was just playing this like side character. It was so cool. But I watched these movies both recently, um, and I think I don't know if they're from a similar time, and I was like drawing them together, but honestly, like the characters, I was like pulling a lot of connections with to each other, Tyler Durden and Donnie Darko, and um, in the fact that both of these characters are a little bit crazy, and I think this is um it's interesting to see these like quote unquote crazy people get played out in movies in different time periods. So like um just because I think now like the term crazy or just like what it's really become is just like people are addressing that people have um different levels of mental stability, right? And like it varies quite a bit. And I think in both of those movies, like it's very clear that Tyler Durden and Donnie Darko are well, Tyler Durden is like literally a made up character. Like I don't even remember who the main guy was from Fight Club, but like that was like the guy that he like made up, right? So like that was like a whole nother level of crazy. But um it's just interesting to see like how like pop culture portrays crazy people back then, and how like honestly like we wouldn't even call those people like crazy anymore, right? That's kind of like a I don't know. I feel like that's kind of like an old school term a little bit, but um like um and I think there's a lot of different themes in both of these movies, but something that I really like to do, which I really really recommend to you guys. I watched Donnie Darko with like one of my really good friends, Alex, and it's just trippy. Like it's so hard to understand because they like go back in time and stuff, and there's like it's confusing, right? So the first thing Alex is like, I'm gonna look it up, like look up what the ending is supposed to like mean, and I was like, don't do that. Like I just I think a good movie is supposed to give each person their own like personal takeaway, right? And it's not meant to like uniformly everyone takes away the same thing. You know, that's art. Like you stare at a painting and some emotion resonates with you, and that's what you take with it. And you leave feeling a certain way. And like that emotion is probably a little bit different for everyone based on past experiences and memories that they've had in their lives, right? So and I think it's the same with movies. And I'm going to share with you guys what I took away from a couple of these movies. And um, drawing on these characters for me, um, I think that especially with Fight Club, Donnie Darko I watched a little while ago, so it's um, like some of the ending and stuff is a little bit hazy to me, like what everything, especially because the ending was so confusing. But at least from Fight Club, what I took away is that like this guy was like batshit crazy, right? But what he what he got was that, and you see this time again in history. Like I would argue that like Hitler was very crazy, right? And like what you see though is that like even the craziest of people are able to like, if played right, convince like a mass of people to like get someone to do something. And like I guess not as much in Darko, but in in Fight Club, like this guy literally had like two personalities. He didn't even realize he had the second personality. He thought it was literally another person. And then like he was able to convince like so many people to like blow up buildings and do all this like crazy stuff, right? And I would argue the same with Hitler. I mean, like I know people don't like talking about him, but like he convinced all like most of Germany that like what he was doing was right. Even though now we look back and we're like, holy crap, like that is very obviously not right, right? And like, um, and these are examples of like ways that crazy people have convinced people to sort of do things that probably aren't good. Like I think Fight Club at its core brings up a really good point of like these institutions, and now like living in 2025, like you can really appreciate it, right? Like a lot of like all of these companies and corporations are consolidating into each other. Microsoft, Apple, all these like mega corporations are buying out the little ones. And like my roommate told me today that Mojang got bought out by Microsoft. I was like, bro, Mojang is the creator, the company that makes Minecraft. I was like, bro, how could you sell to Microsoft, bro? It's just so like you sold hard. Like that's so annoying. But um, it's all these companies are consolidating and slowly like they're gonna control the world, right? And I think Fight Club sort of gets at that. Like, and we're just expected to buy the products, buy this, buy this. You get this money that like you have too much of, and then you go and buy the stuff that you don't really need, and it just like sits around and does nothing for you. You know, it's like, um, but I think like the way that obviously that Tyler Durden did it in the movie, like blowing up buildings, like obviously not the way to get things done, but um yeah, all that to say, crazy people like in Fight Club able to convince a large mass to do something, right? But I'm here to say that I think you could look at it the other way, right? You can also be a little bit crazy and convince people to do something that's different, but like in a positive way, right? Um, and how do you know if that's positive? Like, I feel like it's pretty clear. Like, if you're like endangering other people, like, no, like, but if you are like changing the world for the better, like, if someone was able to figure out a way to like bust up these big corporations so they weren't like consolidating something and do it in like a way where like no one was dying over it, like I would say that would be a good idea. But I think no one has come up with that idea because just a difficult situation, right? Also, like there's a lot of money being thrown around. Like those big companies like don't want to get broken up, right? So, but that's just like one example. But like all this to say, and if we step back a little and look more generally at the two movies, both these people are crazy, right? And I think part of it is maybe showing that like the craziness And where I originated with this idea is because after both those movies, I don't know if you guys ever feel this, but like if it's a well done movie portraying someone that's mentally ill like that, you start to question and feel yourself. You're like, wait, I might be a little like mentally ill too. You know, like you get in this echo chamber and you're like, especially if you watch them by yourself and you're like, wait, am I crazy? You know? And I think like part of my takeaway was that because I got really scared and I'm like, oh my God, I think I am crazy. Like, this was me after like not talking to anyone for like 24 hours. So I'm like, oh my God, maybe I am, you know? Um, but after I like freaked out about it a little bit, then I like calmed down and I realized I'm like, wait, but like, that's okay. And I think in reality, what it is that everyone is a little bit crazy. And I think as you get older and you get into society, you learn very well how to suppress that side of yourself. Because people, you're gonna get some weird looks, right? Like that just is what it is. But along with doing crazy things, I think comes a lot of crazy ideas, right? And this sort of cycles back to my job a little bit, and the fact that um, it research is such an interesting thing because, especially doing research in this day and age, because to even get to the point where you can conduct research in the field now, you have to learn so much information, like the activation energy to get to where because to do research, to do cutting edge research, right? You have to learn all the research that was done before to get to the point you're at now, right? Whereas even take it back to the 80s, we just knew less about take cell biology for example. We just knew less about the stuff. So the level of knowledge that you had to know back in the 80s to do science was a lot less. And I'm not saying like the people weren't as smart in the 80s, like they were, right? Like but what I'm saying is that now more than ever it's ingrained that like this is how it is. There's a right and wrong, and you're learning, especially like for me in biology and like hard sciences, there's a right answer and there's a wrong answer, right? Like this is the way things work. And then when you get to cutting edge, you realize that wait, the rules start to go away because people don't know what's going on. And then that's where you have to really and I don't know, like honestly, I feel like you could make an argument that creativity in and of itself is a little bit crazy, right? Because you're like conveying something and representing an emotion or something you feel in a way that no one else has before. And like yes, it's originality, but you could also argue that that's a little bit crazy, right? Because you're doing something that no one else has done before, right? Um, and maybe I'll leave that up to you guys to think about, like crazy versus originality. Like what what is the difference there? And is there really a difference? And instead of like turning away from the crazy ideas, like maybe we should like be embracing them a little more, right? And obviously for like negative things like could harm others and stuff like that, or are just outright like rude to others, like obviously like those things. I mean, this goes without saying, like shouldn't be talked about, but like for things that just maybe change the way we look at the world a little bit, like I think those things seriously need to be considered. And in the case of Tyler Durden and Donnie Darko, the, they're both very crazy characters, but maybe that's okay, you know, and that these are very radical examples, right? But on the level of someone like me who's like integrated into society, blah blah blah, has a job and stuff, like I'm probably never going to get to that point because I have society to kind of like feed me all this BS to keep me in there. But every once in a while, you can sort of like remove yourself from that and be like, whoa, I just had this nuts idea. What if this actually happened, right? And that's the thing about like the quote unquote goody two shoes, especially in research, is that like often these goody two shoes are really, really, really hard rule followers. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily bad. I've always taken pride in the fact that I'm not necessarily a rule follower. I will follow your rule if you have good justification as to why to do so. But until I follow your rule, I will continue to ask why things are the way they are, because that needs to be questioned, and I need to make sure that I'm not just doing something to do it, right? Um, and I think being a goody two shoes as a not being a goody two shoes as a researcher puts you in an extremely advantageous position, because you're able to see you're able to get to this point where this whole time I've been thinking like I'm always questioning the rules, right? So when I get to the point where the rules become blurry, like the rules of biology, and like researchers don't have it all figured out, I'm able to like think of other solutions that maybe like in the common dogma, the way things should be doesn't make sense. But in reality, like a lot of times biology at first like doesn't make sense, right? And it takes this like original or crazy idea to be like, what if this hypothesis is actually true? And like you support it because you're like, maybe all these things are connected, right? And then you test it, right? And I think honestly, dude, like that's like you see time and time again throughout history, like that's how like the greatest innovations and inventions and breakthroughs in science, it takes people like that to to even dare to think that way, to even dare to break the rules of society, the rules of science, like just to think outside the box. And I think there's something to be said for that. So all that being said, I think first of all, if you haven't seen Donnie Darko or Fight Club, watch both those movies. Let me know if you draw a connection from them or if you don't. Like, maybe it is a bit of a stretch, but um, I also think in this day and age, like when I look back and kind of laugh at like what they thought of like mentally ill people back then, and now like looking at it, I think like it is cool to see the progress and to see that it's not just like, oh, it's only like a certain amount of people that have these problems, right? It's everyone is a little bit crazy sometimes, and everyone has days where they're really sad or they're really happy, and it's like that just is what it is. It is funny to me that like when someone's really sad, it's heavily questioned, but when someone's really happy, it's like not questioned at all, and it's like both of those are like very extreme moods to have. And obviously like a more happy person is fun to be around, so maybe that's why it's not questioned. But I don't know, it just makes you think like I think being like sad is such a like, oh, don't be sad, don't be sad. It's like, no, like you're gonna have sad days, and like it in those days, obviously if they're prolonged, like that becomes an issue, right? But if like one day you wake up and you're just not feeling the best, it's like it's okay to have those days, and um not every day you're going to get these crazy ideas. I think if I could have one state to be in for the rest of my life, it would be like I'd be able to consistently be in this like creative flow state where I feel like I can come up with all these ideas like all the time whenever I want. But it that just makes when I get into that creative space that much more special, because I never get to have it, right? Like it I would say it comes maybe like once a week, and I'm like, oh yes, let's go, this is so fun. So I think yeah, when you get in these like creative or crazy moods, whatever you want to call it, like take advantage of them, and don't like shy away and be scared of them, because no one likes to admit these vulnerable things, right? But everyone has these bad days, and like people hate to admit it, but they happen to everyone, and some more than others, right? But you learn to deal with them. And I would say like just learn to be comfortable with them, because they're not going away by any means. So thank you for listening to Life the Germ. Hope you guys are having a good night, morning, afternoon. I'm your host Jeremy, and we'll catch you next week.